I just feel the gun on the back of my head, and he just like basically kicked me down, handcuffed me and all this stuff. Like, what are you guys doing? I mean, this is the first time I really was like, dang, I think I might die right now.
Professor Live.
What's up, everybody? Professor Live. So today we're switching up the flow. Obviously, most of the time on this channel, posting basketball action or some sort of vlog leading to basketball. I thought it was important to address what's going on in society today, you know, with the Black Lives Matter movement, the protests, all the stuff that's going on with the police brutality, and explain my stance on it and why I think it's important. So personally, I'm sensitive to this because without the black culture, there would actually be no Professor Live, believe it or not. A lot of people don't know where I actually started my career. I started it in street ball, which is a very black culture thing, especially at that time. And so they gave me an opportunity, you know what I mean? I was actually voted onto a professional team. There was all black players. I was actually the only white player, like the first one on this team. It was the And1 Mixtape Tour. And you know, that whole culture embraced me, not only from an insider standpoint, but from a fan standpoint too. So with that being said, I wanted to make sure and use my platform to bring awareness to what's going on right now. And, you know, definitely say, you know, my stance on everything. Like, I definitely believe that there's systemic racism in the United States. There's direct racism. It's been going on for hundreds of years. And I think there's police brutality and all this stuff. So I wanted to make sure and use my platform to shed light on it. So I brought my homie Air Dog on with me today. You guys have probably seen him in some videos. I've collabed with Air Dog for like the last 7, 8, 9 years, something like that. We met over 10 years ago. He's actually had experiences with racism directly that he's dealt with. And I thought, you know, for you guys to hear it from him directly would be really powerful. So just to start with, before we get into story stuff, I think it's important to talk about Air Dog. What would you say is the true integrity meaning of the protests? Because there's a lot of different viewpoints on like what the protests mean. Some people say, oh, it's all looting, it's all bad. Yeah. A lot of people would say, no, it's great, it's XYZ. So how would you define it?
I feel like in the purest form, I mean, the protest is just about raising our voice and having ourselves as a black culture being heard and saying like, you know, we're trying to stand up for things that we feel aren't right and that we want change for. I feel like a lot of the looting and stuff is getting construed in with the people that are protesting peacefully and positively, and it's being thrown in a bunch, so they're just saying all the protesting is bad. But in all honesty, the people that are protesting for the right reasons are doing it in the right way.
Right.
But the media is just kind of changing it to the perspective of all the protesting and the looting is the same, one and the same, when it's not.
Right, and the true intention would be?
For change. We just, you know, we want to be seen as equal. Like, we don't want to feel like uncomfortable when we're driving at night or if we get pulled over that we might not come home to our families. We just want to feel like we're a part of the society just like every other race.
Yeah, it's interesting too, because I noticed some of the narrative of people who weren't for it, like on Facebook and in the media, all they want to talk about was that the looting was bad. And of course it was bad, right?
Absolutely.
Destroying anybody's property is not a good thing, but it got away from the true intention of it, which was, like you said, to raise awareness on the issue and hopefully advocate for change at the top legally. So next thing that's also a hot topic is the whole Black Lives Matter versus All Lives Matter. Yeah. So how would you respond to that?
I mean, I feel like when people aren't understanding when we say Black Lives Matter, it's one and the same with All Lives Matter. What we're saying is we want our lives to matter just as much as everyone else's. We're not just saying, oh, Black Lives Matter and no one else's does. We're just saying we want to be held to the same standard as everyone else's lives. Like, we want to be able to feel like we're equal. And so it's like, of course, all lives do matter, but when are Black lives going to matter in that context?
Right.
So
it's interesting too, because it's like the whole narrative always gets changed with everything, you know? It's like some people's viewpoint on that was like really weird. It's like all lives matter, you know, black people are playing the victim card and boom, boom, boom. It's like, wow, like that's really, like you must be very distant from the culture to A, you haven't seen it directly, or B, like you just really have a weird perspective of the overall scape of the country and how black people are treated.
Yeah.
So a friend of mine I was talking to recently, I thought he put it really good. He was talking about how if one house is on fire, we always say the house on fire matters. You don't say all houses matter, right? So like there's an issue, you know, there's a racial issue with black people. It's like you're highlighting that Black Lives Matter. It's not saying like
no one else's life
all
does.
lives matter when there's a fire there. So I thought that was a good parallel.
For sure.
All right, now segueing to some of your personal experiences with racism. I think a lot of people may haven't heard directly just in a casual setting, especially from somebody like you who's popular in the hoop culture. Like, how have you experienced racism personally?
Yeah, I feel like for black people in general, for myself, I know when I was younger, a lot of things that happened to me, I didn't even think of them as being racist until I got older and was more aware of what was actually happening. And just thinking back, like, man, that was something that was really racist, you know, that happened. And I've had several instances of things like, you know, the typical, obviously being pulled over by the police for being in the wrong part of town, handcuffed at gunpoint, all that types of stuff. But even I know at my high school, just like little things that people would say, like I went to a private high school, and I remember one game, I had caught a dunk and the crowd was going crazy. Mm-hmm. The principal ran out of the stands and ran over to the head coach and like yelling, take him out of the game. He's trying to start a riot for dunking a basketball.
Wow.
And crazy enough, the head coach took me out of the game.
Wow.
And it was just like I said, at the moment, it just was a blur and didn't really realize like, okay, what is this about? But it's like the fact that that's what they thought I was trying to do by playing basketball, you know, was crazy to me. And then fast forward, even years later, I was on tour with my homie Zigzag. I know a lot of people,
is the Cop Store?
The Cop Store.
Okay.
I know a lot of people probably know Zigzag, Street Baller and stuff, but
shout out to Zigzag.
Yeah, shout out to Zigzag. We were coming from one of our games, and the next day, we just run and go get something to eat at McDonald's or whatever. So we're driving, see a cop pass us, you know, think nothing of it. Next thing you know, he just does a full 180, lights his siren up, right? So it's like, okay, this is weird. So we're sitting there kind of talking like you and I, waiting for him to come to the window, tell us, you know, whatever, license, registration, nothing. We're sitting there for about 5 or 10 minutes. So I like casually look over my shoulder like, man, what's taking this dude so long? I see him just gun drawn down over the car door. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, man, what the heck? In my head, I'm still like, okay, maybe his license is suspended, something's going on, so I'm the passenger. Mm-hmm. So he's sitting there for about another 5 minutes. Next thing you know, about 4 or 5 cop cars just pull up, all guns drawn out, yelling at us, get out the car, put the keys out, walk back. I mean, this is the first time I really was like, dang, I think I might die right now. And so I remember him telling me to get out of the car, walk back to his voice, and I walked back until I just feel the gun on the back of my head, and he just like basically kicked me down, handcuffed me and all this stuff, like, what are you guys doing, blah, blah, and that, threw me in the cop car. And we're trying to explain to him, like, dude, we play professional basketball, we're out here on the street ball, and he's just like, prove it. And I'm in my head like, how can I prove I'm a basketball player right now in this situation? So thankfully, Zigzag's from the town, so I guess he was talking to the other police officer, telling him, and so he let him be uncuffed. So Zigzag went and got the ball, started doing like, you know, tricks and stuff. But then it was like, it was all good after that. And it was just tough for me to even understand that concept that somebody could just get pulled over literally for doing nothing. And then he just hit us with the cliche of, oh, you know, you guys fit the description of whatever was happening, mm-hmm. which probably wasn't. But even still, it's like the police officer, the first thing he did was pull his gun out. He didn't speak to us, not one word. Wow. And it's like, if I would have made the wrong move or anything, it could have been a George Floyd situation. You never know. So,
wow.
Yeah, it's tough to think that. And a lot of people don't realize, like, for black people, and I encourage people to look up redlining and understand, like, this systemic racism has been years and years in the making. Mm-hmm. And it trickled down into how it's affecting us right now as a society. Mm-hmm. So it's just hard for people to, when they say, oh, that was 300 years ago, but it's still affecting us today because of the things that happened to us. Mm-hmm. So it's tough.
Wow. I think it's also hard for people to understand too, what I've noticed, because I have friends, like I probably more than half of my friends are black, but then like I have a good portion who are white, and they really just deal with white culture on the regular. Might not even have any black friends, maybe just black acquaintances, if that. Yeah. And I notice a lot of people, like their narrative, like they're looking on Facebook and stuff, is really, it's kind of like a whole like, all lives matter, you know, don't play the victim card. Yeah. It's like a whole thing to where they really have like kind of these false perspectives, but it's just based on them being like really distant from the black culture. And so I think that's really interesting. It's almost like I actually really can appreciate and feel blessed to have friends from the black culture, but from all cultures, to be able to get in and really like understand their lives, because you see it at ground level. You know what I mean? But I thought that was interesting that that's the case, and that's why like it's valuable for you to come on here. You know, for somebody who might feel distant from the whole situation. You know, if you live in a very white state, you know, like I'm from Oregon, it's a very white state. Not that there's not black people, but you know what I mean? You can form those perspectives that can be very untrue.
And ironically enough, I was born in Minneapolis, so it's like we know about how police are out there, and it's been like that even since I was young. So
so it's been extra bad in Minnesota, you're saying?
for sure.
Yeah, that's wild. I didn't know the Minnesota had that issue till right now. The other thing I wanted to share with my stance on the whole thing, and really like the deeper root to all this, is that I just believe as a Christian, Air Dog's Christian as well, that, you know, all people were created equal in God's image. You know what I mean? The Bible literally says we're all created in God's image. It says like when you die in heaven, like all people of the earth will be together and united. So I just believe that if the creator of everything looks at us as equal, it's like, why would I not?
Yeah.
You know, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree completely. I remember I was scrolling through on, and I seen this person was talking about this verse in Luke, I think it was Luke 15, where God left the 99 sheep because one was missing. And they said, yeah, but don't the other 99 matter? And it basically was saying like, yeah, they do, but this one is in danger currently. And so it's the same thing as piggybacking off what you said. Like if the creator feels that way and that's how he thinks, then why don't we as a people feel the same way?
Right. 100%. And like I said, it's like for you to try to be sensitive to the issue or even get involved and help, it's like you'd have to understand what's going on. So I think listening and trying to educate yourself is invaluable right now.
And I think just starting out, you know, individually, what can we do? If you don't want to go out there and protest, if you want to just start by being a better person, get out there and vote locally, vote for your state officials, vote for, you know, all that type of stuff. It doesn't just start at the top with the president. It's day-to-day things, and just stepping into someone else's lives and understanding their perspective on how they are on a day-to-day and the things they have to go through on a day-to-day basis.
100%. It actually reminds me of that Michael Jackson song, Man in the Mirror, right? He's talking about if you want to make the world a better place, take a look at yourself and then make a change. So it's like if we all look in the mirror and kind of check ourselves and we all try to get right. Imagine if every person tried to check themselves and come with the purest viewpoint. Probably be in a lot better place.
Absolutely.
But anyway, speaking of ways that you can get involved and help right now, definitely no like social expert, no legal expert, but there are some ways you can help the cause. If you check the link in the description, you go to that, there's a lot of places you can donate to help the people who are affected by this, such as George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, and others. And then there's like some petitions you can sign, and then also some little bit of information about voting, you know what I mean? Because that obviously can weigh in. So thank you to Air Dog for being on here, man.
Appreciate you, man.
You sharing your heart.
Appreciate you using your platform for doing something like that.
No doubt, man. Least I could do. And thank you guys for checking this out. Rest in peace to George Floyd.
Rest in peace.
And we'll see you soon.